And we're live.
Hey guys, it's Deal Flippers, episode 8. How the heck, man? We have really just blowing through this live stuff. Awesome, Adan.
Yes.
Who knew that they would go so quickly? It's like crazy.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to catch on as it did, but it's great. It's moving forward. We got the videos on YouTube going out almost every day now. So, man, it's going great. So, I wanted to ask you about this topic and why you chose it today. Scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset, and how
Cool. That's awesome. So I chose the topic because of a person who's a subscriber, actually Dylan, who used to help us with the YouTube channel, texted me today. He said, Robbie, can you talk about this? He said, can you talk about the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset? And I thought, I think it's key. Like that's a really important topic to think about. And we all have at times a scarcity mindset. And if we can teach ourselves to switch that scarcity mindset and turn it into an abundance mindset and think about things slightly different, it will be valuable. At least for me, it has always been a blessing. Anytime I start to think about things, like for instance, with this channel, we don't ask anybody for anything. We're really not doing this for any other reason than to give people value and to invite people to partnership. And so because we do it that way and we know that we're going to be fine, we're real estate investors, we know we're going to find the next deal, and we know that there's plenty out there for everybody, we can invite people to the island to partner with us or to just come alongside of us and invest in real estate. We can tell you exactly what we're doing and how we're investing and why we're investing, because we have an abundance mindset. If we had a scarcity mindset, I would just pretend like no one else in the world existed and I would go about my business. Life might be easier. I wouldn't have as much of the go home stuff, but but what fun would that be, right? Like, so I really think that just knowing, having faith and know that there's an abundance and that there's enough for everyone has been a real big game changer for me. And I didn't always know it, right? Like I didn't have that mindset always. And even though I say I have it most of the time now, there are certainly times in life where it's hard not to think scarcity wise, right? Like with the banking situation going right now, like, do we hoard all of our shit and just go through life terrified that the banks are going to collapse and that life as we know it is over? Or we have faith that the world's going to continue and that everything's going to be all right? So
I think I agree. You have to see that there's a good place down the road. Like where you're going is where you want to get. But if you don't, it's not only having that mentality, right? You have to understand that it's not that manifesto, I should say it and it happens, right? It's, I say it, I want it to happen, but now I have to put the work behind it to get it done. I can say I'm a real estate investor all freaking day, but if I don't make the calls, if I don't do this, if I don't do that, if I don't do everything that it takes, like today, trying to figure out if these contractors are going to give me a fucking bid or not,
it's not magic, right? Like this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. I do believe we speak things into existence. I think that that kind of thought process works, right? Like, so I'm a heavy believer in telling people what you're going to do. But then what you're saying, Adan, and you're absolutely right, is I could tell you what I'm going to do. If I don't ever take any action and do anything about it, well, then it absolutely won't come true. But if I'm telling people what I'm going to do and I'm start to visualize it, my mind doesn't know the difference between, reality and what I'm telling my mind, right? It just has to believe. And so I started this as an athlete years ago when I was playing ball and shooting free throws, and you would visualize the ball going through the hoop, right? And literally I would do that stuff as I was going to sleep at night. And so that was my first ever thought of this visualizations and speak it into existence type of stuff. But I think a lot of athletes can resonate with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a athlete at all, but let's say for last year, before when we first met each other and we started doing the YouTube stuff, as we're riding around the car, the first lesson was, find the deal, and the money will find you, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing I took to heart was, if I really want to do this, I have to first start, just jump in with both feet, get it done. And not only, and start telling people, like you said, like, hey, I'm going to invest in this, I'm going to do that, and have the naysayers and take that all in stride, right? But also have it as a quality check, because when they come back and say, hey, did you do that thing you were going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it. Or I haven't done it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do that, because I don't want this guy coming back to say that again, and I just think you got to say it and you got to do it. You got to be about it and go for it 100%. So why did Dylan say that? Is he in a point in life where, he's hitting that wall of like, do I just do what I'm
he actually
told, or?
texted me. We chatted for 30 seconds after that, got a few texts, and Dylan is doing really, really well. And I'm very proud of him. For anyone who doesn't know the story of Dylan came to Puerto Rico at 19 years old. He decided that he wanted to move to Puerto Rico. And he didn't really have any interest at all in real estate or investing or anything. His interest lies in personal fitness and becoming an excellent trainer of people and a coach. And so he was very diligent about that. At 19 years old, he's an impressive guy. And the fact that he decided, he sort of did this maybe without even knowing. He decided he wanted to go to Puerto Rico. He told his local pastor one day, hey, I want to go to Puerto Rico. And the pastor is a friend of mine, said, well, you should talk to this guy, Robert. And then Dylan and I got in touch with each other. And I said, look, if you want to come, I'm thinking about doing this YouTube thing. And this 19-year-old kid religiously kind of contacted me again and again, every 2 or 3 weeks, probably every 10 days, he would call me, he would email me, he would text me, hey, Robert, I really want to come to Puerto Rico. And it was, at some point I was like, well, this guy's persistent. He's going to come. And I love to be able to bless people and be of benefit. And I hope that, and I think that I was. I mean, so he came, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He helped with the YouTube channel. Adan was teaching him how to do video stuff. He had really no experience with it. He didn't have any dreams of doing it. Yeah. And Adan took him under his wing and taught him how to set up lights and how to use a camera. And we put out a bunch of videos, and at the end of his contract came, and at the end of it, he was like, I think I want to go home. And we were like, okay, cool. So, and then that's when Adan stepped in, and Adan and I have run with the YouTube channel. But Dylan got us started, I mean, if he wasn't so persistent, I wouldn't have decided, all right, we'll do this YouTube thing. And I could have probably let it go, even though I knew I wanted to do it. It was really his persistence, and that is an abundance mindset, whether he knew it or not. The belief and the idea that he could, just graduate high school and move to the island of Puerto Rico, and basically, speak that into existence and have that all come to fruition. That's what we're talking about, right? Like he could have had that thought that he wanted to come to Puerto Rico and never told anybody about it, and just thought to himself, well, I'd really love to do that, but how am I going to do that? I'm a 19-year-old kid. I don't have any money. There were more reasons that he shouldn't have been able to do what he did than there were reasons that he was able to do what he did. So I hope that people who hear that story realize it. And then Adan, I think we should talk about kind of your story and my story together with YouTube and what we're doing, and your belief to become a real estate investor, because again, there are more reasons that we wouldn't have done what we've done than there are that we have been able to do what we wanted to do.
Yeah, no, I think, well, I mean, the story is simple. We met through Facebook. It's like, hey, I put this post out there. I really want to learn this, and that's what was for me the first step is what do I want to where do I want to push forward towards my life? Do I want to keep doing this production stuff and just try to figure out and hopefully it gets better, or do I want to try to take a new path and follow something I always been interested in, which is real estate. I bought my first apartment at 19, and if I would have known what I know now, I would have been still buying more and would have stopped the production stuff right away. But you live and learn, and it was like, all right, I really want to learn more. I want to get into this. I know I can do it. And where do I start? Yes, I don't have any money to pay. You're watching all these guys on YouTube. You're like, how do I can't pay $1,000 right now. I can't pay this. That's too much money. Like, where can I start just to test it out? And you find that avenue, and I found Facebook, and I found you, and that's how this all started. And then as we progressed through our business relationship, it was like, hey, we're gonna make $1 million in 5 years on YouTube. That was like probably after I said, yeah, let's do this. And it's like, all right, we've got to make $1 million in 5 years from YouTube. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, this
isn't just a hobby, Adan. We're not. We want to give value to everybody, but this isn't just a hobby. This is a business model that we're going to prove out over the next couple of years. And why do I tell you early on that hey, I'm thinking we're going to make $1 million a year on YouTube, and I'm giving us 5 years to get there. And I say that so that I motivate myself. I say that so that it motivates you, hopefully. Yeah. And it gives us something to work towards, right? That if we don't say those kind of things, then certainly we wouldn't do it, right? Like if we don't ever think about where are we trying to end up, and I have no idea how we're going to get there, right? Like I had a guy give me some feedback I've had 2 people give me feedbacks on my shorts telling me that I'm basically awful at this videography stuff. and sure, they're not wrong, but you know what? I put out those videos. I do it again and again and again. And I'm better today than I was a year ago or a year and a half ago. And I'll be better again a year from now than I am today. And Don, you're buying real estate now. You are a real estate investor, and you've got a couple of deals under your belt. And a year from now, you're going to be a much better real estate investor, and you're going to have dozens of deals under your belt. And so we just take action and live with an expected mindset and an abundance mindset.
To those 2 guys that say that, they should go look at your first things that you showed me. You're like, hey, can you edit this? No, this is trash. We're never going to use this. Let's go shoot this. Let me shoot it for you. Because Robert's thing is, you see that? This is awesome. But he's gotten so much better, guys. He can pull out a full video by himself if he wanted to. So he's killing it. So whoever says that, they suck.
No, and I appreciate the feedback. I'm happy. One guy I think was telling me that I was horrible, and I wasn't so happy about that. The other guy I think was actually being kind, but saying, hey, think about this or think about it in this way. So look, I appreciate the feedback. I don't even care when I get the gringo hate, really. I just like the interaction, and sometimes it's fun for me to chat back and forth with people. So I can tell you what, if you respond to one of my videos, you'll probably get an answer from me.
100%. 100% it will be Robert. We ignore those things. But so before I go into the next thing, if you're watching this, please like this video. Let us know that you're there. And if you have any questions about abundance or scarcity or any of that stuff, post it in the chat, and we'll get to it next. So what I was saying is just that the $1 million in 5 years, yes, I took it as motivation. Like at first I was like, yeah, okay. But then I was like, I think this could be done. And I think we could do it way before that if we just really figure out how to not just be like, hey, we're waiting for the AdSense on YouTube. Let's figure out how we can monetize outside of YouTube, but still use our influence here on these platforms to be able to progress a little bit faster than normal. And I think we're getting there, especially this year. And it's just a matter of like, he said it, he keeps saying it. I got to make sure that we make it happen, and it's a team effort, right?
Yeah.
Without the connections you have, we can't talk to really interesting real estate people or people in different avenues. Without the production background I have, we can't produce great videos, and now the team is building, now we have an editor, now we have a social media manager. We're starting to help them find their footing and get better at what they're doing. And it's a matter of speaking it, right? Because all of last year was like, and you knew this, we need an editor. We need an editor. We need an editor.
I probably heard you say that at least 2,000-3,000 times.
Yeah, just last year.
And then I would say it too. I would be like, hey, and not because I don't think that your editing is great. Your editing was tremendous, but
yeah,
I know that if you go and you work with me for half a day, so you got half of your day is gone, 12 hours is gone. Then we have dinner. Now we're 15 hours in, and then I go home and go to sleep. You go home and edit a video, and you're up all night long. I mean, so you were routinely last year putting in 20-hour nights, 20-hour days. That was a very common thing for us, and both of us, Adan and I, were workers. And if you watch any of our videos, we encourage everyone to work hard. I mean, this is, you can, again, to Adan's point earlier, you can think it all you want. You can start telling people, but until you start taking action and doing stuff, you're never going to see the success. But I believe about Adan and I, we're both willing to work, but I would see him routinely last year, work himself to death. And so I was also saying we need an editor because I don't want to lose Adan. I want Adan to become a super successful real estate investor. I want our channel to continue to be able to give the value that we give to other people, but we had to bring on teammates. We had to bring on other partners because it would just have killed the guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly,
there's no stopping him. There's no quitting Adan.
And I wasn't going to give up that
go
easily.
out on a Tuesday, he's up all night on Monday and he gets it out. So
yeah, no.
And now Adan with our team, we're killing it on social media, and that's Christian, and we're grateful to have him on the team. And now Adam has just edited 2 excellent videos. And guys, if you haven't seen our last 2 long content videos, they just came out. It came out one on Tuesday and one came out on Thursday. They're both really, really well done. And that's our brand new editor, Adam, and he's doing a really great job. So support the team, guys. Go look at that stuff. Leave me a comment and tell me what you think. Can you tell the difference between the videos that we were doing a few months ago that Adan was editing and the videos now? Because I think they're seamless. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, no, he's a good editor. He's learning. He's not as green as I thought he was, and he's taking it, and it's easier. It's so much easier to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing with at least a program.
All right, so this is something that Adan has taught me. So your audio is all messed up right now, Adan.
My audio? Yeah,
you sound like you're not like we've got a bad connection, but you just don't sound clear.
Well, I don't have a microphone in front of my face.
Does it on the Christian? Does the Adan stuff sound better on the coming over? Okay, we're good. It's just coming through the computer poorly. Yeah, so it's on my end.
Maybe it's got to be, hold on. It's calling me out on technical things. Here we go. All right, let's see if this works better.
It's good. It's good. Christian says we're good.
It sounds better now?
Sound better?
Maybe give him the headphones, Chris. Connected to your computer.
All right.
So getting back to the topic, abundance. So there was a lot of lessons I learned last year. It's like, all right, if I take it like into my heart, then it's like it has to just work. You just got to put that work behind it. And it's even like right now, this deal that it's coming towards closer to the closing date.
Yeah.
I'm in my head. I'm like, How do we do this? It's a good deal. How do we make sure someone walks away with a great deal? You know, and I'll bring down the price. I'll talk to them. I'll try to give them all the possible not I don't want to say info, possible monetary situations they could do. You could do tourism, you could do this. And man, it is tough work everywhere you want to see it. Plus if you're doing it from far away from another country. So
Then you're back next weekend, right?
I'm back next week here. We're packing right now.
All right.
Like stuff everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Well,
All
that's
right.
nothing. So how did you first come into that mindset? You know, was it when you were watching Carlton Sheets, or was it, well, you said sports, but was it when you got to a professional league, or when you were first starting out,
No, I think I've gone to and watched and learned. I've been to many seminars. Now I watch them on YouTube, but back in the day, they would come on in the middle of the night. And fortunately, I've heard speakers talk about some of the stuff we're talking about. I think I was sort of naturally wired in a way that I kind of always had this idea. My thought was like this: if someone else had ever done it one time, then me being a reasonably intelligent person, I could probably figure out how to do it. And I've had that go through my mind over the last 25 years in business. I oftentimes will look at other people who do something in business and say, wow, if they were able to be successful with that, so can I. So for instance, would be our friend Jerry Norton, who we've had on the channel, and we've been on his channel. And he's a really good real estate investor, but he's also a rock star on YouTube, right? And so when I look at a guy like Jerry Norton, I think, you know what? Stack me up next to him as far as the real estate plays go. I'm in that guy's league. But he's a rock star on YouTube, and if he can do it, so can I. I'm believing in myself that I can be that type of a personality and that I can bring people. I think Jerry Norton brings people a tremendous amount of value. And so that is just one way that I look at someone who's done something that I admire, and I automatically sort of start to think, well, I could also do that if I work at it. And I know that I'm going to work at it if I tell people that I'm going to do it, because that's just how I'm wired, right? So I start telling people what I'm going to do, and then I start doing it. And if you follow this channel, you'll know one thing about the Flip Flop Flipper and PR consultants: we're consistent. We show up, and we
got a question.
We keep going. So
100%. There's no stop. Here's the question from Angel Martinez. I'm always afraid of starting and failures in the beginning, but always happy to see others get ahead. How do I start and finish?
Wow, Angel, that's a great question. And how do you start? And so I'm going to assume that you're saying, look, I want to be a real estate investor. What do I do to start? Maybe you've got a full-time job, maybe you have a family, and you want to turn a job that you don't like into a career in real estate. So I'm making a few assumptions, but if that's you and you're wondering, what do I do to start? Then I would go to my job, and I do my job. And then every bit of spare time that I've got, so I wouldn't watch TV. I would obviously spend enough time with my wife and my kids, but if I've got free time, I'd be looking at real estate. And I would be I would work at it. I would go and look at everything that's for sale in the area that you live. I'd call every single sign on something that's for sale or for rent, and I'd start having conversations with the people that are professionals in it so that I could learn the area. And once you've figured out what you think things are worth in the area and you've called enough things, you're going to naturally find some stuff that looks like it might be a bargain. And then I'd start making offers, right? So then once you get to the point where you've progressed that you're making offers, I'd make offers on everything that I ever call on, and until I get contracts. And then once you have contracts, if you want to buy it yourself and you're to a level where you've got some money and you can do it, then I recommend you buy that first one. You go through the whole process. Let's say you don't have the money though, then you need to try to sell your contract. That's called wholesaling.
Well,
and so those are some steps that I think, and I know that sounds really kind of rudimentary, right? Like, oh, sure, let's just go start calling on and go start making offers. But the more you do it, and Adan, I'll ask you this. So you've done a couple of deals. How much do you learn just by having something under contract? And then how does that process work for you?
It's just something else. So once I got under contract, what do I do? Oh, I got to go find the options contract, put money down, put my contingencies down, make sure that if something happens, I get my money back. If, how many days can I get to close the deal? All that stuff. You can learn a lot. Just this week, I'm learning how much, contractors it is to get a contractor to give you a bid. Every time you take that step forward, you're gonna find yourself a wall, and it's how hard can you hit that wall until it breaks and you get through. And that's the way I see it, right? And to condense what you were saying is like that little bit of time. There's a lot of time in the day, right? If you find, hey, like you said, I'm gonna go watch TV, or I'm gonna go play video games, or I'm gonna go drink and hang out. If you switch that time for something that you're passionate about, you feel like you won't waste time. First off, you'll feel like you're gaining so much more, because it's not only listening to the knowledge, listening to books, reading books, watching the videos, all that stuff. It's how do you apply it, and it's everything that Robert said. You gotta take that first step. Go look at the area. Go find what you like. Go call, find out what's the prices around, and just go for it. It is hard. It is scary at some points, but once you get those first couple of calls and those 100 no's and all that stuff, it's just a different story from there on forward, because you feel so much more confident in what you're gonna do, and you find what you like as you progress, right? I found I don't want to be the contractor, but I do want to be able to work with a contractor and know as much as I can to make sure, hey, the job's getting done well, and I can make sure that we're not gonna lose on this. So
yeah. I mean, even today, like you shared with me a bid on a condo that we're about to purchase, and it's from a contractor that we've never worked with. You've never worked with them, and it's not a bad number, but it's very vague, right? Like, okay, it's $52,000 and we're going to paint it. We're going to put the floors in it. We're going to do the demo. It's like, okay. And so I'm talking to you saying, Adan, we need way more information from them, right? So then you got to go back to them and convince these people who probably don't get asked the amount of detail that we're asking, right? And so you learn about all of this stuff, and the next time you're going to be able to say, look, here's all the stuff I need, right? Like, did Dave email you, by the way?
Yeah, he emailed me that. It was what was it called? I got it here. But yes, and not only that, I speak both languages, but for a contractor that's fully Puerto Rican, maybe doesn't have the best English, he can probably get by speaking as much as he can, but not like that also stops them from progressing, because they're like, I don't want to give you this because I don't want something to be misunderstood. And I talked to the contractor today. We're supposed to get on a call like in an hour or two, and we'll sit down, and I'm going to try to transcribe all the things in details and ask him all the questions. Dave, what he sent me is called a scope of work list. And I saw that for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, man, that's a lot of questions.
That's a lot of details.
It was stuff that I was not thinking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, this is great. What are my timelines? What are the specific tiles we're using? What is the bathroom going to look like? What is this? What is that? Like those are the questions that hopefully we get into. He already took a window guy over there. We know how much the windows are. He's going to take a gypsum guy. so they can put gypsum board and make that master bedroom as big as possible. You know, it's really it's really fun. It's stressful at times because I'm moving and I'm doing 20 other things, but it's I don't see it as, man, this is hard work. This is I'm just taking it as a learning curve. And I always, before I met you, what I would tell myself and I would tell people, it's only failure if you take it as failure. But if you change the word failure for lesson, then it applies better to anything you do,
Yeah.
because that thing you would consider a failure just becomes a lesson, and you can take that lesson to the next test and be like, oh, I already saw this coming this way. Let's change it up and do this. And you apply it, because there's people that, oh, I failed once, I'm done. I'm staying here, this little hermit crab. I'm never doing anything again. I'm gonna be a little house spouse. Hopefully, my spouse makes more money than me and could take care of me, the baby, the dog, everybody. It's like,
That's funny.
that really sucks. It
Yeah.
sucks for some people. I'm like, I can't live like that. So,
I like that, what you said. It's not failing, it's a lesson. And when you have this abundance mindset, when you train yourself to have this abundance mindset, you look forward to the failures, because the failure means that you're that much closer to a success. Because
yes.
I'm not going to let a no turn me away. Like if I make an offer on a piece of real estate and it doesn't get accepted, okay. Yep. Well, that's great. I made the offer. I did my part. I know that if I continue to do my part and do my job and work hard and make the offers, that eventually someone's going to say yes. And then I'm going to have a whole new set of things that I have to do my part on. Right. Yeah. So I really, and I think I've even said this to you, Adan. I'm like, did you make 10 offers this week? Yeah. They turned me all down. I'm like, all right, that's great. Way Perfect. To go. Good job. That's great that they all said no. We got that out of the way. Now make 10 more. And if 9 of them say no, wonderful. Because pretty damn soon, someone's saying yes, right? Like it's inevitable. They can't say no forever. Like you just got to keep doing your part. You got to keep doing what is your role. I mean, you can't be in the seller's shoes and force them to say yes, but you can be a real estate investor who's constantly on the hunt and on the lookout for finding a deal. And so, well, Angel, go ahead, Adan.
No, I agree. It's like, before we got this Rio Piedra deal, I think I called 10, 20 people, talked about all their deals. And, some people just don't have certain situations that make them have to jump for it. Oh, I already have my house paid off. Until I don't get my price, I'm not going to sell. Or I'm not going to sell to you. Or they just hang up on you when you tell them your offer, even though you told them, hey, don't get offended, but this is what I think. You're missing a roof. I don't think I'm going to pay $100,000. No. Click. So it's like, all right, well, you live and learn. And as long as you don't take it personal, because it's not personal, it is business. It is, it might feel personal to the seller because they might have some sort of attachment to the property, especially if it's like a single family home or somewhere where they saw their kids grow up. But it is what it is. We got to take it as like, all right, how do I get past this level? How do I work up to the mixed use commercial building that's $2 million? How do I work up to the 17 room guest house hotel? Like, how do I get there? How do I play this Monopoly game as efficiently as possible?
Yeah, that's I've told people, we bought 3,000 houses before we ever bought our first hotel. And now we're investing pretty heavily into the hospitality. So we're playing real life Monopoly, but it wasn't 3 houses and then a hotel. It was 20 years, 22 years, 3,000 times that we bought a house before we ever did our first hospitality project. And really wasn't until we came to Puerto Rico, and we probably would have never invested in hospitality had we not made that move. So much has to line up, right? And God's got his own plans. I can plan all I want, but God's got a plan that's probably better than mine anyway. And eventually, if I will just be faithful and keep doing my role, keep doing my part again and again, it will work itself out. And so, Angel, the next thing I would say about your question there is, don't be afraid of the failures. Like I'm really serious about this. Go ahead and make an investment and start doing it. And by doing that, you will learn what works, what doesn't work, and you'll get better at it. And you will be successful if you can stay with it and do your part, right? Like if you can just keep doing your role, and your role will grow. Like right now, your job, if you want to become a real estate investor, is to go find a deal. And then once you've found a deal, your job will be, how do I get the money? And once you've got the money and you close on it, then your job will be, how do I get a contractor to fix it? So you're going to have these really important lessons that are going to come that really can only come by you being a real estate investor and actually doing a deal. And so everything that we do on this channel is to encourage people to actually become real estate investors. We want to see people closing deals. We want to see people buying real estate, fixing stuff up, improving neighborhoods, starting businesses, providing jobs. And you have to start somewhere, right? You've got to start somewhere.
And that's the hardest part, is you see all those avenues to start or don't see any, and just you're stuck there. You're stuck there.
Yeah.
What do? You go for it. Go for it anywhere you can. However it just shows up. Look at a video. Start with a video. Start with a YouTube video. It doesn't have to be our video, but you start with a YouTube video.
Well, it really should be our video, though.
It should be. We have a whole freaking whole freaking playlist. You're welcome, Angel.
Yeah, and Angel, to retire in Puerto Rico, that is, I love it. I don't know how close you are to retirement, but I say this often, and I wholeheartedly believe that this is the time. This is a really great time to be looking at buying your retirement home in Puerto Rico, and maybe you get it rented out for the meantime until you finish up your career and you can come and live here. But this is a great time to be buying real estate in Puerto Rico. And if you'd like to talk more with us about that, then the best way to get a hold of Adan and I both is the flipflopflipperpr@gmail.com. That's our email. That's the flipflopflipperpr@gmail.com. We're trying to funnel everything to that so that we can be organized about responding to you. And I will apologize in advance. I get instant messaged, I get WhatsApped, I get all kinds of different, there's 50 different ways people are reaching out to me, and the flipflopflipperpr@gmail.com is really the way to be sure that you're going to get responded to. So
100%. And comments in the videos and in the chats. And if you have questions right now, ask them in the chat. But if you do see one of our videos and respond in a comment, for the most part, you'll probably get Robert answering back. And that's one of the few people I know that do that, because most people don't want to interact on social media, and Robert really does. Negative or positive, doesn't matter.
I prefer the positive stuff, and I try to let the negative stuff roll off my back, but every once in a while I just have to interact with my haters from New York and New Jersey who haven't been here for 25 years but think that I shouldn't be in Puerto Rico either, and so I respond.
So I put the playlist in the chats there if you guys are interested in where to start, what you should be doing. It's a great resource. We're going to be adding more to it this year. We've just been really busy with 20 other things, but we're going to get there. And here's a question for the audience. Like, what is stopping you right now from taking that step forward to being like, hey, why don't I just email Robert and be like, where do I get started? Or why don't I just take that first step and go look at this property I always wanted? Or how do I talk to my family and be like, hey, can I buy this off you guys, or can we partner together to do that? What's stopping you right now? So as they answer that, my question to you is, why didn't you stop at the first house? Because I know your story of your first house.
Yeah.
And that should have been a story for anybody to be like, I'm fucking done. I'm not doing any more.
My story in my first house was a story of, we did not, let's just say it did not go the way that we expected things to go, right? I had a plan, and we went about executing that plan, and it was just not going to happen. I pooled our money together, my best friend from high school and his father-in-law, and we all had like $3,000, and we bought a crack house in a really tough neighborhood and went about fixing it up all on our own. And it was just basically a disaster, right? Like by the end of it, my best friend and I were not talking to each other. Him and his father-in-law, they hate each other. It's like,
oh no, that's not good.
We're still friends, my buddy and I, but it just didn't go the way that we thought that it would go. But I don't sort of do things halfway. I jumped in and decided I was going to go into business for myself and be a real estate investor. That first house was my first attempt at that. And before I even sold that house, I'd started an LLC. Well, first I'd gone to work for the company that sold me the house, and I had bought several other houses from them. I was 25, 26 years old, and I'm working for a company that is wholesaling real estate. And so I was just like, any chance I could, I'd be like, I'd buy that. I'll do this. I'll do it. And there were people in the room who backed me with money, and there were people in the room who probably thought I was insane, but I just kept going. And I really looked at each time that I bought something early on, especially that first year or so, it's just like I was at a semester of college, every house, and I would learn every job that there was. I learned how to do title. I learned what it took to get someone a mortgage. I learned how to cut the grass, and I just anything that from little to big, I just took it upon myself to make sure I knew what it was. And a lot of that stuff that I learned, I don't do it all anymore. But when I was first starting out, I really just did absolutely every part of it. So,
and you have to, because how do you know you're not being taken advantage of?
Yeah.
Because someone knows something that you don't, or how do you know it's being done properly if you yourself weren't in that position at one point or another? It's like me handing over the editing to Christian. There's something wrong. To Adam, and it's like, doesn't get it. Oh, that's a problem I had before. Here, you could do this, you could do that, get over it, and just solve it like that. And 20 years of real estate experience, you should be able to walk in anywhere and see it on fire and be like, this is a great deal. We'll make this work. And everybody else is like, hey, we're trying to put out the fire right now. It's like, no, this is good. Let it fire.
And here's how my mind would work. If I see the house on fire, then I'm much more likely to buy it than if it didn't catch on fire.
Yeah.
Now I know that there's a pain point, and there's a reason, someone's going to have to fix that. And that's 100%. That's what you look for in real estate when you're an investor and even with me. So like, I own some properties in Jacksonville, Florida right now. So this is for anybody out there who's in Jacksonville, Florida, that wants to buy some properties. I've got 3 or 4 more properties left in Jacksonville. I had about 30 at one time. I hate Jacksonville. I don't want to go to Jacksonville. I don't like it when the houses become vacant. In fact, I've got a vacant house right now that it's been sitting there for 7 or 8 months. I've had to have it boarded up. So it's a problem for me. If a real estate investor were to call me up and figure out how to solve my problem, I would be happy to sell that house. We could figure out some kind of seller financing or partnership. Someone would say, hey, let me come in and fix up the house, and then we'll sell it and we'll share in profits. There's a number of different things that I would do in Jacksonville to get rid of at least this one house that's sitting vacant. It'd be harder to convince me to do things on something that's actually making me money. But I got at least one house that when I think about it, I don't think about it. I just let it sit there because that never gets to the top of the list right now. But I am a motivated seller. I have pain points on that house that if you're a real estate investor and you make me an offer and you can figure out how to solve some of the problems that I have, man, let's go.
We got a question.
I'm your guy.
Yes, sir. From Ash. Hey, can you let me know if you have experience with properties from the show? I saw one in Fajardo at El Conquistador on the show and want to see how experiences with them. So
Yeah.
what's your experience with the show? I think you got.
Yeah, so we've bought a dozen, maybe 2 dozen houses from the show. I would say when I first came to the island, it was one of our preferred places that we would go to buy single family homes and small multifamily homes. We've got some that were really, really good deals that we bought from the show. And then what has happened is that over the years, their real estate owned has gotten smaller. They had a lot of property on the books when I first came to the island 5 years ago. And so, for instance, we would see on their list a house in Guaynabo. I have a condo in Guaynabo that I think was listed at $100,000, and it's basically an apartment in a multifamily house that they somehow made it condos. I think I ended up buying it for like $25,000 after months of, I would make an offer. They would say, make a higher offer. I'd say, I don't negotiate against myself. They'd come back and they'd give me a counter offer. Like, I think it started at 100. I offered 15. Anyways, we bought it. We still have it. It's rented long term. It's a really great deal. I just sold a fourplex in Fajardo that was a similar situation where it was a complete wreck of a house. Had been sitting on there. I think they had foreclosed on it 5 years before I bought it from them. So they just had this house sitting out there, and they were asking $100,000. I bought it for like $25,000, $22,000, and we just are selling that fourplex right now for like $250,000. We fixed it all up. We've had it rented for years now, and we're selling it with some seller financing to someone who's going to probably go in and do a even better job than we are, make it nightly rental and increase the cash flow. And so I love the show. I think they're depending on at what level you're trying to buy at. Like if you're looking for your first time home, they've got some great programs. They've got a rent to own program that is phenomenal, where you can actually move into the property. They'll fix it up for you. You move into it and they'll get your credit right, and then they'll lend you the money on the back end and get you to buy it. And it's been my experience that you can get a deal from the show. It's not easy. I probably, in order to buy a dozen or more, I might have bought 2 dozen houses from the show. We probably offered on 100. Maybe we offered on 200 or 300. I don't know. But when we came to the island, I did what I told Angel to do earlier. I looked at everything that was for sale and I made offers on everything. I mean, everything.
And a question on the show, they usually show a price that would be if it were completely fixed up, right?
That was my experience, yeah. And so that was their price would. So if they thought the house was worth $105,000, that's the price they would put it out at, even if it was a complete wreck and needed all new electric and plumbing and everything. It didn't have doors and windows. So I had to learn that, right? Because at first you kind of choke on it and you go, well, they're asking, how could they ask that much?
Yeah.
And the truth is, that's what they probably had someone say, if this house was in great shape, this is what it would be worth. And so we were offering, when we first came to the island, though, there was so much for sale that I think my first 5 offers here, I got 3 of them accepted. And I immediately knew that at 40 cents on the dollar so if they were asking 100, I was offering 40, and I got 3 out of the first 5 offers accepted. I was like, I'm offering too much money. So I started offering 20 cents on the dollar. If the banks were asking 100,000, I was offering 20. And I was still getting a pretty good amount of those accepted, or somewhere in between 20 and 40%. Yeah. So the show has definitely tightened up, though, Ash. Like it's probably even harder to buy a great deal from them today than it was when I first got here 5 years ago. But I do believe you could do it, and you probably would be wise to find someone who specializes in buying houses from the show. Or I think the show will have a list of approved sort of realtors. Yeah, and find one, and you probably have to talk to many of them until you find one that's going to be willing to put in kind of the low ball offers, right? For the last 2 years or so, everything on the island sold for asking price plus. Appraisals don't matter. Everybody had cash. I think that's going to not be the case anymore, and that you're going to see banks like the show and First Bank and Oriental, they're going to need to start to liquidate some of these assets that are on their books, because they're going to have new assets coming on. They're going to foreclose on more stuff, and they can't keep this stuff on the books forever.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps. Deshow is great. Go buy from them.
Hey, Angel says he'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, Angel, send us an email and let's connect offline. The flipflopflipperpr@gmail.com.
So even well, this is a great segue now. Talk about the show and stuff here. You can apply a lot of the abundance mindset to you. Even ended up on this island. Yeah, because you were struck by a bunch of Chicken Littles that were like, why are you gonna go do that?
I've had a lot of Adan. So in 25 years of real estate, I've done a lot of things that people scratch their head at and go, that guy's crazy. Like, are you insane? You're gonna what? You're gonna go to Puerto Rico? Aren't the lights out there? Right? Like, there's no power. And coming from Orlando, Florida, like half of the island was flying from Puerto Rico to Orlando, and I'm the one nut job who got on the airplane and took it back to the island. Right? Yeah. I'm on the empty plane coming to the island when everybody else was leaving, and so yeah, I had a lot of like people who knew me. They knew that I was pretty good at what I was doing, and they still would say, that's nuts. I did have a bunch of people that also said, hey, that's brilliant. I wish I could do that. And we did it, right? Like, so it worked out really, really well. The best business decision I've ever made was to come to Puerto Rico.
So when you landed and you saw all the distress and all that stuff, like most people would probably be like, man, this has nowhere to go. And what was your, I guess, mantra in your head that you were like, all right, this is definitely doable. I could definitely see this, and just
yeah. So really, that first time we flew in and it was daylight and we looked out the window, you could see blue tarps everywhere. It was a sea of blue tarps, right? The power wasn't on, and so we knew there was lots of distress. There was going to be a lot of need. We heard, and I should have probably verified this because I've kind of always just said it, but we heard that 200,000 houses blew away in the storm, right? Like, so if you had a wood frame house before Maria, you basically didn't after that. And so we knew that there was going to be a housing shortage, and there was. Whether 200,000 houses blew away in the storm, I don't know if that was true, but I knew that there was a lot of distress. There was a lot of damage. And then when we got to the island, we realized that it wasn't just from the storm. There was even more distress generationally, just from the fact that the island had really never recovered from the 2008 housing crisis, right? So they went into this recession that became a depression, and that they just didn't get out of. And even today, like, it's liquidity is not really a thing here. So even in 2023, our banking system hasn't caught up to the stateside stuff because the bankers here are afraid of what happened in 2008, right? So there was this generational distress plus the storm. And then in my mind, I thought, well, I've seen what happens from a big storm. A big storm comes to the Panhandle and wipes out the Panhandle in Florida. And about 5 years later on, everything's rebuilt. Times are good. Economies are booming. And my thought process was, hey, we can come and ride this hurricane cycle up. And that 5 years later on, which is 5 years now. I mean, I moved here in March of 2018. So it's, I don't know when I moved here, but 5 years ago today. And if you look around, when I came to the island, nobody was building anything. There was one crane on the entire island, and I look for that kind of thing. Now you look 5 years later on, and this is a typical hurricane cycle. The money has come in, the insurance money has come in, the bailout money comes from the government, right? All of that stuff takes some time. So when we came, the roads were so bad that you definitely couldn't avoid all the potholes. Some of them they needed to build bridges over so that you could just continue down the road. Yeah. We still have potholes, but the roads are way better now than they
And
were
they're getting
5 years
better.
ago. And they're getting
slowly
better all the
getting better.
time. Yeah. And even once the lights came back on, there would be, for no reason at all, entire power outages on the island, kind of fairly routinely. Like I remember one time when we were early on here, the power went out island wide, and they said someone was digging in their backyard and they chopped a line in half or something. Probably baloney, but that was the story that was being circulated. It's like, oh wow, are you kidding me? So our power grid is that fragile.
Yeah.
And I know, there's a lot of upset about it changing to Luma from whoever had it before. Was it Prepa or something like that had it before? And as far as I can tell, though, the power grid's getting better. The lights don't go out as often. Is everything perfect and good? No, of course not. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot that's still going to happen, but things have definitely improved. I mean, you can see it on the island. You fly here, look out the window of the airplane, you don't see a sea of blue tarps anymore. And if you drive around neighborhoods, you see in neighborhood after neighborhood and house after house, renovations have been done and things are looking really good. Yep. Again, I say this and I'll get in trouble for it, but I believe that before Maria, there really wasn't work. After Maria, if you want work on the island of Puerto Rico, there is work. It's just a fact. That's the truth. We have a labor shortage now. A real problem on the island is that we don't have enough people to do the jobs that need to be done. And before Maria, the real problem was there was no work for anybody, right? And so everyone thought they had to leave the island for opportunity. And so that was a pattern that had been going on for years and years, right? Like all of the young people would, maybe they'd even get through college, but then they'd get a degree and they'd be like, I can't get a job. I got to get out of here. I got to make some money. And so they'd have to move to the States. Guys, that's not the case anymore. I mean, that's part of the reason we do this YouTube channel, is to let people know. A lot of times we're letting people who left the island, Puerto Ricans who left the island, let you know, hey, there's opportunity. Come back to your island. Come home. And there's plenty of opportunity here. So,
well, we're getting down to the last little bit of minutes here. If you guys have questions for Robert or myself, and it doesn't have to be abundance related, but anything, we're here to answer it. But to follow up what you were saying, and I want to thank Moises. He's got these people riled up in the YouTube. Look at this. 5 people in here, only 3 thumbs up. Go like this video right now. We appreciate that.
I love it. You guys, the thumbs up really helps the videos. We appreciate that. And if we've got 5 people in here, let's get up to 5. So hit the like button for us, guys. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. So I mean, closing remarks. When you find yourself against that wall, and you're like, man, how do I get past this? What is something you do? Not only just tell yourself I'm gonna get past this, because anybody could do that, but that's wishful thinking if you don't apply something to it, right? So what's your process of, all right, how do we figure out the situation? How do we make sure that we get out on top, or we get just through it?
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that question, Adan. So I think the idea of when I in my life find something that I'm telling myself, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I could never raise enough money to do that, or I don't have enough money for this, then what I've trained myself to do, and what I'm pretty good at, but I still fail, is to remind myself to not tell myself I can't, but to turn that question around and say, how could I? So then, if it's how could I afford to do this? How could I raise the money to do that? How could I get this done? This thing that I feel like I can't do. How can I make $1 million on YouTube in 5 years? Yeah. That's a question, right? Like we've put out hundreds of videos. We make no money here, but we're asking the question, and Adan and I have these conversations. How are we going to make this YouTube channel a profitable venture? Well, we're going to invite partnerships, and we're going to do a deal with people who we meet through this YouTube channel, and we're going to make money that way. Or we're going to do an event, and we're going to invite people from the YouTube community and it's going to give them great value, and it's going to give us some money to be able to pay the staff and to keep going. So, and really, I had no answer to how we could make $1 million when I first said it about YouTube, but I'm 100% confident that that's a true statement. And I said it about a year ago. So now I've only got 4 years to do it. We still haven't made any money, but
we're working
we
towards
will
it, that's
absolutely for sure partner with someone from this YouTube channel and buy a piece of real estate, whether it's in the island of Puerto Rico or somewhere in the States. But that's going to happen. Right? Like that's the answer of how could we do this, is that we could partner with someone and we could make a bunch of money on a real estate investment. So that's how I answer that, Adan, is that I like to turn the question of I can't do this to how could I do this? And then once I start asking the question about how can I immediately jump into what's my plan for. So once I've asked the question of, how can I do whatever, then I set up a plan. And then the last thing, and it's the very most important thing, is that I take action, you take action. We start doing stuff, and I start doing stuff before I have any idea what I'm doing, right? Like we started making videos, or I started making videos, and I was horrible at it. But I just did it. I started doing it. Or with the real estate, I decided on a Monday to quit my job on a Wednesday, and on a Friday I closed on a piece of real estate. I jumped in with both feet. And this is back in the day. My plan was I'm going to be a real estate investor. How can I be was the next question. But I bought something before I figured out any of that other stuff, and I was off to the races, right? And it was hard, and we didn't make money for a long time, and I had 2 kids and a wife that they needed to eat, and I had to support them, and so that meant that I just stayed at it. So the most important thing is to take action and do your part. Do the part that you're capable of doing. So whatever it is that you're trying to do, there's a piece of it that you're able to start doing. And starting out in real estate, call every single sign that you see of a piece of real estate in your neighborhood, in your town. You call and you talk to everybody on the other end of the phone that's selling it. You tell them you want to be a real estate investor, and then you start making offers. I mean, there are just little steps that you start taking. But I think the most important, or the kind of first key, is to take the I can't mentality, which is the scarcity mindset. And it's so easy to just say, oh, I can't do that, and stop, and turn it into a how could I, or how can I? And if you make that change, it's powerful, super powerful, super, super powerful. Do this stuff for like 25 years. You'll look back on your life and you'll go, wow, that worked.
Yeah.
If you only do it for like a day or two, you might look back on it and have no success. But if you just stick with it and keep going, keep doing your part, the portion that you can do.
Yeah. I guess I would put that in, figure out what you want to do, build the plan around it, go for it.
Yeah.
And don't look back, and don't just go for it once, go for it 3,000 times.
Yeah.
Until you get that hotel.
You look at your failures as lessons. Adan said that, and it's really good advice, right? Like, what's the guy who invented the light bulb that said he came up with a couple thousand ways of not to invent the light bulb until he finally invented the light. Yeah. So
no, that was electricity.
Edison. I don't know.
Yes.
One of those really smart guys, right? But they failed at it over and over and over and over and over again, and then they changed the world.
Yeah, 100%. And this one can apply for real estate too. Every wall is a door. So, in that note, we're gonna end it here. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate your time here, and we'll see you on the next one. We'll see you Monday for the Flip Flop Power Hour.
Yeah, Monday for the Flip Flop Power Hour, and then Wednesday we'll do a Q&A, and then next Friday we'll have Deal Flippers again. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.